The cranial nerves.
Hello viewers, this is Mohtaram Shah and you are watching The Sciences. In this video, we will discuss the cranial nerves. First of all, let's define nerve. What is nerve? A nerve is a group of nerve fibers called neurons. Neuron is the basic, functional and structural unit of the nerve system. We know that there are three types of neuron. Nerves can be classified on two bases, on the base of function and on the base of location. Based on function, there are three types of nerves: sensory nerves, motor nerves, and mixed nerves. Sensory nerves are those nerves which contain sensory neuron. Motor nerve contain motor neurons, and mixed nerve contain both sensory and motor fibers. Sensory nerve carry messages from body such that receptor to the brain, and motor nerve work opposite to the sensory nerve. Mixed nerve carry messages between body and brain in both directions. On the base of location, there are two types of nerves: cranial nerves, which we will discuss in this video in detail, and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves are the nerves which arise from the brain, and spinal nerves are the nerves which arise from the spinal cord. Both the brain and spinal cord are the components of the central nervous system. As we know that nerve system contain two main parts: central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system contain all the nerves, which may be sensory, motor, or mixed in nature. There are total 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. The cranial nerves may be sensory, motor, or mixed in nature. All the spinal nerves are mixed in nature, containing both sensory and motor neurons. In cranial nerves, nerve number 1, nerve number 2, and nerve number 8 are sensory in nature. Nerve number 3, nerve number 4, 6, 11, and 12 are motor in nature. And rest of nerve, such that nerve number 5, nerve number 7, nerve number 9, and nerve number 10 are both sensory and motor nerve, called mixed nerves. In cranial nerve, three nerves, nerve number 1, 2, and 8 are sensory. 5 nerves, nerve number 3, 4, 6, 11, and 12 are motor. Rest of 4 nerves, nerve number 5, 7, 9, and 10 are mixed nerves.
Members, names, nature, and center of control.
Cranial nerves. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Their names, their numbers, their functions, and their controlling center. We know that the cranial nerves having their controlling center in the brain, so they are controlled by the different parts of the brain, some by the forebrain, some by the midbrain, some by the hindbrain, and functions of the cranial nerves. We know that all the cranial nerves contain sensory, motor, both type of neuron, and there are three types of cranial nerve. Sensory nerve, motor cranial nerve, and mixed cranial nerve containing sensory and motor neuron. The first cranial nerve is called olfactory nerve, and its name indicates that it is responsible for the olfaction or smell sensation. It is sensory in nature and it is controlled by temporal region of the brain from both the side, because they are two in number each side of the head. They arise of the air region and receives nose sensation called olfaction. It is important nerve. Cranial nerve number 2, optic nerve number 3, cranial nerve number 4th, number 5th, cranial nerve number 6th, cranial nerve number 7th, cranial nerve number 8th, cranial nerve number 9th, number 10 and number 11, and the last nerve is number 12, hypoglossal nerve. The second cranial nerve is known as optic nerve. The third is oculomotor nerve, and it is responsible for eye movement. The fourth cranial nerve is known as trochlear nerve. It is also important nerve. The fifth cranial nerve is trigeminal. Sixth one is abducens. Seventh cranial nerve is facial, and the eighth cranial nerve is vestibulocochlear. It is responsible for hearing and balancing the body. The 10th one is vagus nerve. The 11th one is accessory nerve, and the last one is hypoglossal. It is controlled by the medulla oblongata and responsible for the tongue movement. The first one is sensory in nature, second one is sensory in nature, third and fourth are motor nerves. Trigeminal nerve is the first mixed nerve. It contains both motor and sensory neuron. The sixth one is motor, seventh one is second mixed nerve, eighth one is sensory, ninth one is mixed, and it is the third mixed nerve. And the 10th one is fourth mixed nerve, then motor, and then hypoglossal is also motor nerve. Olfactory nerve is the first nerve and it is controlled by the temporal region of the brain. Optic is controlled by occipital region. Both the oculomotor and trochlear nerves are controlled by the midbrain. Trigeminal nerve is controlled by the pons. Abducens nerve is rising from the pons. Facial is the same. Vestibulocochlear nerve is rising from the pons and medulla oblongata. Glossopharyngeal nerve is controlled by the medulla. Vagus is also controlled by the medulla oblongata. Accessory nerve is controlled by the cervical spinal region in the neck, and it is responsible for the neck movement, and the hypoglossal nerve is controlled by the medulla oblongata. So these all nerves are controlled by the
Detail to functions.
second nerve is known as optic nerve, and it is sensory in nature. It arises from the occipital region It receives sensory information from the eyes such that vision sensation, also known as optic sensation. The third one is oculomotor nerve arising from the midbrain, and it is motor in nature. It carries messages to eyes who play a role in eye movement, ciliary body. The fourth one is trochlear nerve. It rising from midbrain. It is motor in nature. It also plays a role in movement of eye, such that eyeball, an important nerve. Before the trigeminal nerve, these three nerves, such that oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, and abductive nerve, participate the movement of eye. So these play a role in the movement of eye. And it also controls the facial inversion. Abducens is an important nerve. It is controlled from the bones. Trigeminal nerve is the first mixed nerve arising from the bones, and it is the part of hindbrain. It performs motor functions as well as sensory functions. Its motor function is jaw movement. It controls the movement of jaw and receive face sensation. It is sensory function of the trigeminal nerve. The seventh one is facial. It is second mixed nerve. The first one trigeminal, the second one is facial, and it also arises from the hindbrain pons region, and it has two functions: motor function and sensory function. It receives gustation or taste sensation from the tongue. It is its sensory function. And carries taste information into the bones. It is also responsible for face movement. It is its motor function. Because it is mixed nerve, perform both the functions. Vestibulocochlear nerve is responsible for hearing and balancing of the body. It brings information from the ear, internal ear. Glossopharyngeal nerve is also mixed nerve, and it is third mixed nerve. Its motor function is swallowing, etc., and sensory function is throat sensation. The 10th one is vagus nerve, and it is the last mixed nerve arising from medulla oblongata. Its sensory function is epiglottis sensation, which is present upon the glottis, a lead-like structure, and its motor function is swallowing, coughing, etc. The 11th one is accessory nerve. It arises from the cervical spinal region and is responsible for the movement of head. And the last one is hypoglossal nerve, motor in nature, arising from medulla oblongata and is responsible for the movement of tongue. So these are the nerves: trigeminal nerve, facial nerve, vagus and glossopharyngeal nerve are mixed nerve, and olfactory nerve, optic nerve, and vestibulocochlear nerve are sensory in nature, and rest of all the nerves are motor nerves.
oculomotor, trochlear, and abducens control the movement of eyes. Thanks for watching. For more such videos, please subscribe to channel.